Awesome, man. Let's rock and roll, dude. I'm digging the new album, The Waiting. The waiting is finally over. We got a new album. It'd been a few.
Indeed, indeed.
And I'm kind of curious, man. Had you been chipping away at it the past 4, 5, 6, 7 years, or did the pandemic kind of slow you down and say, hey, you know what? Now I do have time to focus on this record.
Well, it's a combination of everything, right? So we started recording it pre-pandemic, and of course, pandemic hits and nobody knows what the hell's going on. So we kind of like, we took some time, and I was never scared with this pandemic thing, to be honest with you. I know, look, I know it killed a lot of people, and actually my own cousin. Uh, but I still really wasn't concerned. I got it, and a lot of people, basically everybody that I know got it at some point.
Right.
But so it kind of slowed us down a little bit, and and I think to our advantage, really. We were able to get in there, record more songs. Because there's, when you do an album, you just don't say pick 10 songs and you're going to do it. You always do more to. And then you're like, you know what? This one is not working so well, so let's leave that one off. So that's exactly what happened. So to me, everything worked out for the best.
Yeah, I mean, way more time than you normally get on an album. Normally it's, hurry up and crank it out. And I know touching upon Glenn, the albums that he likes to record are like lightning quick, like one take kind of deal. So it must have been nice to kind of do the inverse and take your time.
Yeah. I think, for Glenn, Glenn, goes into some great studios. Fortunately for me, I have my own. So it works out where it's good and it's bad, right? Because in a regular studio, time is money and the money is yours. So the clock keeps ticking. In this case, we don't have that issue because I can just keep doing whatever I want to do and go over it and blah, blah, blah. So, in that regard, sometimes you have to just kind of put your foot down and go, you know what? We got to live with it, because otherwise it'll never get done.
Yeah,
Because you do have that option of keeping it going.
Yeah, you could tweak on it forever. You could tinker with it all day long. I was gonna say, do you do like a car test or anything? You're like throw it on in the car, rock out with it, and you're like, okay, it's good.
It's amazing that the amount of options we have now to listen, right? So in previous years ago, you went to the car.
Right.
Or you went to a boombox. Well, what is the majority of people listen to music on now? And that's basically a Bluetooth speaker,
sure,
right?
Sure.
That's the majority. No one has real big stereos in their home anymore.
No.
So it's either on ear pods, a Bluetooth speaker, or car, you're streaming. So, fortunately, we have a multitude of different types of Bluetooth speakers that you can go, oh, it sounds good on this one. This one's a little bass heavy. This one, and then it's interesting. I bought this headphone system, and they're flat sounding headphones. And then there's a like a plugin, as they call it, for digital audio workstation that simulates a studio. It simulates a car, the inside of a car, simulates a boom box, a ear pods, so it's pretty amazing to get the feel of different sounding rooms. And of course, and you're taking it, and because I have really good studio monitors, but nobody listens to music on really good studio for the most part. I'm sure there are some people that do. I know I would, because I'm just I'm a geek when it comes to audio stuff.
Yeah.
So, I've invested heavily over the years, but most people just like listening, on their ear pods or whatever it is. And that's cool. We have to make it for everyone.
Totally. And you did, dude, a really diverse sounding record. Like, you can't pigeonhole this band and put it in one box. There's punk, there's rock, there's like goth, there's metal, and even a little Alice in Chains influence on like a tune like Waiting for the Sun to Go Down. I was like, whoa, okay, this is another
I've heard that, and it's kind of interesting. I'm a fan of all music. Sure. I don't like to I'm not one to pigeonhole myself. Myself and Dan Tracy, my partner in Blak29, we didn't sit down to say, we're going to write a song like this. It's kind of like it all starts with I hum into my phone when I get an idea. And then we kind of work on it. So being that Dan says I have ADD supreme, right? ADHD, whatever the hell it is. So he has to decipher when I'm humming, and I'll go, no, that's not it. Yeah, maybe that'll work. And that's, so he's really good at deciphering what's going on in my head. So that's the way we work. It's just simple, right? It's just music. Here's the thing. Because of my ADD Supreme Plus premium account that I got going on in my head, I have to make it where I can actually listen to it again.
Mm-hmm.
Because like if I go on a treadmill, I'll go through 50 songs in a half hour because I can't sit still and listen to one song. But so if I can listen to my own songs over and over, which I normally don't, like once I usually record something, I'm done with it.
Yeah.
But actually this album I've been able to listen to over the past few years that, in the process of recording all these songs, I've actually been able to listen. I'm actually a fan of it. And not that I'm not a fan of my previous stuff, but this hits me more. I've figured out that thing that touches that nerve up here and just kind of keep me focused.
I was going to say, man, it's a big transition. Obviously, we first kind of learned about you being a drummer and then a bassist, and now you're a singer. Has that always been the plan, or have you just kind of slowly been gaining confidence over the years to do that?
So, obviously started with drums, and of course playing in my first punk band Morning Noise, and then of course Samhain. And then came the bass in 1999. Now I knew how to kind of I won't call myself a rhythm guitar player, but I write songs on a guitar, so I'm able to play chords. And in 1999, we did a Samhain reunion,
Right.
and we didn't have a bass player, so Glenn's like, well, why don't you play bass on the songs that London May play drums on after I left the band, and London will play bass on the songs that you play drums on. I'm like, oh, okay, I've never played bass before, but I don't even own a bass. So we did it, and that worked. And then, of course, when I was asked to join Danzig 17 years ago, it kind of like, I'm like, all right, I think we could do this. It's been 7 years since I've played bass. So basically Glenn taught me how to play bass. My bass playing is kind of unconventional for bass players. I kind of have that Dee Dee Ramone type playing of and Glenn wouldn't have any other way, for it's all down strokes on the bass. It's a powerful thing. The bass to me is more of a weapon, and I play it more like a guitar because it's got to be that driving force. Especially in Danzig. There's a lot of bands using tracks out there, and I'm not saying that's good or bad. That's a lot of bands kind of need tracks to enforce their production. With Danzig, we don't use tracks, and to get that power going, especially during guitar leads, you need that power of the bass. So Glenn taught me, and that's what I do. It works out really well.
Yeah, dude, and touching, definitely want to talk some Danzig in a few, but did finish out on the Blak29 stuff. I imagine, speaking of Danzig, showing the riffs and stuff to Tommy Victor, and that's how you got him on Destroyers at practice, saying, hey, check this out, check out this riff. With the whole pandemic timeline, were you able to record with him, or did you have to send him the files and stuff?
Well, at that point, Tommy and Johnny Kelly Johnny lives in Texas now. And Tommy at that point was living in California. So with the pandemic thing going on, I reached out. They're on 2 songs. They're also on a song called Long Cool Woman, which is a Holly song. And so that's on, both songs are on the CD. Only the Destroyer song is on the album. So I had, reached out to them. I was like, hey, can you do me a favor? I'd love to have you guys on it. And he's like, I haven't picked up my guitar in a year.
Oh, wow.
Well, he had just become a new dad, and pandemic, so he wasn't really focused on music because there was no music happening.
Yeah.
So he did a favor for me, and he delivered great results as Tommy would normally do. I mean, if you hear prong stuff, and he's amazing.
Yeah,
He's
the
amazing.
new prong tune is killer too. Breaking Point.
Yeah, no, I got to go to the studio in New Jersey that he was tracking at, and hear some of that stuff. When he was recording. Actually, I sang backups on a song. I'm not sure which song, but uh, yeah, no, Tommy is he's a stickler for wanting everything to be perfect for prong and everything. So I didn't think he would disappoint in any way, shape, or form, and
No.
he did. He really came through.
And like you said too, Johnny Kelly, great pocket, man.
Johnny is, he's the metal swinger, man. I mean, I got to see him with Quiet Riot, and it's kind of interesting listening to Johnny playing Quiet Riot. Frankie Banali, who was an amazing drummer, right? I mean, I was never a metal fan. That was never my thing. I grew up on punk, right? So, but when I heard Quiet Riot, Mama We're All Crazy and Come On Feel the Noise, I was like, I got to meet Frankie Banali one time. I'm like, how the hell did you get that drum sound? Because for the early 80s, that drum sound did not exist.
Yeah.
Real quick. I mean, it wasn't until Phil Collins, believe it or not, him and his producer, Hugh Padgham, they were the two guys that figured out how to record drums. Because if you hear that thing like in the air tonight,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, they figured out with gates and everything how to actually make drums sound big. In the 70s, most drum sounds were very small. It was the kick
Dry.
never really came through. It was always that sound of like muffled stuff.
Yeah.
So when Quiet Riot, you hear these big drums, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So Frankie was a very on top of the beat, right? Johnny always plays kind of behind the beat. Johnny swings, he's got that Billboard thing going, John Bonham, his two favorites, and so it's interesting to listen to Quiet Riot with Johnny on drums. He says, well, how was it? I'm like, I've never heard Quiet Riot swing so much, it's great. It works because they play around him, right?
Sure.
And it still works, but it's a different feel. It's Johnny. It's a Johnny feel.
Yeah. And
it's great.
Speaking of live shows, is there any opportunity you're thinking about putting this on the road, or is it just kind of a studio thing?
Absolutely. We're working on that now. I just got hooked up with a booking agency. So we're in the midst of, booking shows. So I'm looking forward to it because I always tell people that's the best part of this business is playing live shows. Otherwise, it's like, as much as I love the studio, being out in a live situation to me is more important. Because how do I don't write for myself. I mean, it's great to be able for others to experience it.
Sure. Yeah. And especially
we're looking forward to it.
The metal lifestyle. I mean, in order to grow a band too, you have to do it live. I don't think you can just have an album studio creation and make it happen.
It's interesting because I think, if you look I believe like the hip hop audience is one of the few that you don't need to tour like that to sell records. There's there's like 3 genres that sell millions of records without touring. Hip hop, Latin music, huge, and you have a lot of these Latino bands that you've never heard of, but yet they're selling out 3 nights at Madison Square Garden, and then you don't see another show for whatever.
Yeah.
But when they do come together, it's a huge thing.
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing, and country for that matter too. I mean, there are country artists that tour all the time, but it's one of the few genres that sell so many physical copies of things.
Yeah. Well, dude, speaking of the live show, I got to thank you. And it was awesome to see you guys with Danzig. Toyota Arena in May, playing Danzig 2 in its entirety, man. And sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, that was kind of my entry point with Danzig, to get to hear Girl and Pain of This World live, and you plucking away that bass line. Like, that was I used to use that bass line. I used to loop it and use it as like a horror music bed, like Halloween music bed.
Oh,
But
wow.
finally hear it live and hear that bass part, it's such a killer part, and it was so good to hear it all live.
You know, we're the beginning of June, we're flying out to Poland and Finland
Mm.
to do Danzig 1 in its entirety.
Uh,
So I can't wait for that. And of course, we'll be taking it to the States at the end of August, I believe we start.
oh, cool.
Yeah, I think next week, the first week of May, they'll start advertising. And in 2 weeks from today, we have a Danzig Sings Elvis show in Vegas.
How's that
So
been going? I know you did an LA show. Are you doing the stand-up bass for that?
no, actually, I'm not doing bass. I'm
Oh,
doing drums on that.
okay.
We don't have bass on that. We have a this guy Ronnie King on Baby Grand, real Baby Grand,
Yep.
and we have a rockabilly type guitar player, and it just works.
Okay.
So it's a real fun show to listen to Glenn Danzig sing Elvis. I don't even want to say sing; he croons it,
Yeah.
and that's what makes Glenn Glenn. I mean, if even early Misfit songs, he doesn't sing; he croons, and that's why his voice is his voice, and that's why he's Glenn Danzig, because he's a crooner.
Evil.
And yeah, evil Elvis. And to hear him sing these songs is just, it makes the hair in your arms just stand up,
Oh,
because he's just so comfortable and so authentic with it. It's pretty amazing.
love it, man. And if I could ask you a question about Glenn, you know, I thought I was cool. I went to high school with a guy named Keith Van Horde that played some NBA ball, but you went to high school with Erie Vaughn and Doyle. And the thing I was trying to think of for you, and I'm dying to know, man, take me back to that moment when you're just in high school or just graduating, and Glenn comes up to you and goes, "Guys, I'm going to quit Misfits. You want to start a band?" Take me back to that moment, man.
All right, so I guess there was tension back in the day with the Misfits. There's that's no secret.
Sure.
And I think everybody was on a different wavelength. I think the two brothers, Jerry and Doyle, were looking to do something else, and they were very involved with their father's business. And at that time, I knew Jerry had to run it. So, like I said, a lot of tension. And I remember Glenn coming back from the last Misfit show, which was like October 30th of that was 1983. And I remember he called me to tell me that the band was over and he was going to start another band, which he had already kind of started, feeling other people out, and it was the Minor Threat guys. And he wasn't feeling that. So he calls me up. He's like, "How'd you like to start a band?" And what am I going to say? But yes, of course. So it was pretty amazing. What was interesting is he didn't want to do Misfits Part 2, which was fine by all of us. So why I have the saying, "Be yourself," because everyone else has been taken.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I live by that motto. I'll even show you. I even had it put on. Be yourself.
Yep.
It's a reminder. It's a reminder for those who come and work in my studio. It's a reminder to everybody to be yourself, because everyone else has been taken. So when we started Samhain, I think we all kind of were scratching our heads going, what is this? Right? So, because you're so used to knowing Glenn Danzig as the voice of the Misfits,
Sure.
right? And even some of his solo stuff that he did during the time of the Misfits, that you're now doing Samhain, which was totally different. It wasn't 2/4 on the drums. It now was these kind of,
Sure.
these, all these different tom beats and stuff like that. And it was very different. And I think no one really, because look, we didn't have the internet back then. So you could, it was the live show that you had to get
Right.
this across. And of course your records. And at the time, everything was analog. So, you shipped your records to a distributor, the distributor got it out to the stores, and hopefully people came into the stores and to buy it. So the process for us was a little faster because of the Misfits,
Sure.
right? But it still was a thing of people catching on to a new sound, which in turn I didn't realize influenced more people than I actually thought it would ever, including the guys in Metallica and whatnot.
Sure.
So in that case, I'm pretty happy that we did that. And Glenn's vision, if you listen to the Danzig legacy of Misfits, Samhain, Danzig, they're one's here, one's here, one's here.
Yeah.
So it's not like a repeat.
No.
You're not going to get the repeat of each band. It's totally separate. On Danzig 4 is the only place where I really hear a little bit of kind of Samhain in some songs. But for the most part, there's one or two songs, but for the most part, they're all separate.
Speaking of Danzig 4, touching on Danzig 4, did you have to kind of catch yourself on the Blak29 record? I don't mind the pain and don't mind the pain.
You know what? Let me tell you something. I didn't even put two and two together until somebody else pointed that out. I didn't even think of that.
First thing I thought of.
There's only so many things we can come up with. It's like, look, you look on the neck of a guitar, right? How many frets do you have to write a song? Think how many millions of songs are written right here. That's all you got.
Yeah, totally.
So at some point, something's going to kind of overlap. Not maybe, and again, I didn't even think of that because I don't really listen. It's not that I don't listen to music. Trust me, that's not the case. But it's not like I go and listen to that.
Right.
So I think it was just a coincidence, really.
Well, dude, I appreciate all the time. And one of the last things I wanted to hit you with, you had kind of touched upon it. Samhain being such a big influence, James Hetfield giving you guys plenty of love over the years, talked about it being his favorite album, perfect album and all that. We do a little feature called Mandatory Metallica, which you're going to be a part of. So I'm kind of curious if you've had any interaction with those guys, with Hetfield, shared the stage with them, hung out with them.
Yeah, we've played lots of festivals with them over the past, and gotten to talk with them. As a matter of fact, Glenn and I, this is years and years ago, in New York back in the day, they used to have a thing called the New Music Seminar. Mm-hmm. And Glenn and I went to see Black Flag and the Sisters of Mercy.
Nice.
At the old Ritz. And who was there but James and Cliff Burton? So we got to hang out with them. That was pretty cool.
God, talk about a special bass player.
Great guy. And actually, they came to a show of ours in San Francisco, and I got to hang out with him. And he was Cliff was a real sweetheart.
I hear a comedian, man. I hear he's cracking jokes left and right.
But new music, like
yeah.
In 15 minutes, he'll tell you the history of all kinds of things musically, so it was a great guy.
Yeah, and an incredible bass player. I mean, legendary what he brought to the bass. Do you have a favorite Metallica tune we could play for you on Mandatory Metallica?
Man. I like the one off the one that they did with Lady Gaga.
Moth into Flame?
Yes.
Newer tune.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, we could go back, to the Kill 'Em All album and start naming songs, You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I love it. I love pulling a
Uh,
newer cut.
Seek
That's
and
cool.
Destroy, obviously. I mean, you can't go wrong. But I like to give newer albums a chance. Now, I
Absolutely.
haven't listened to the brand new one that they're out, which I just downloaded on Spotify.
You need.
But you know, I love listening to newer music because it's still relevant. They're still relevant. And obviously with the types of shows that they're playing, they're one of these bands that'll keep going and going and going. And it's they bring that power,
Yeah.
right? And they're one of the few bands that can still come out with new music and people will still buy it. And I've talked about where people a lot of times only want bands for their old catalog. And the reason for that is not because they don't like new music, but the older music takes them back to a point in time where you didn't have to think and things weren't so damn serious.
Yep. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
You were younger. What was your worries when you were 18 years old?
Right.
All right. It's different when you're 40.
Sure. Sure.
Right. So you want to relive that piece. So let's go back to that time.
For
But
sure.
I think with bands like Metallica, they're still bringing that. They're bringing that anger out in people. And that's, you know what? We need that.
We do. We do. We need them to champion hard rock and metal. And the new album is a banger. I think it's their best since the Black album, like best in good 20 years. So give it a good listen. Steve, beautiful, man. Thank you so much for the time. Can't wait to see you on the live show whenever that happens.
Absolutely, Mike. And hopefully Danzig will be coming back probably in the same place. I think in end of August, beginning of September.
Okay,
so
great. We'll
please come down, get in touch with me, and come be my guest.
I would love that. Yeah, my radio station presented that show, that May show, and I interviewed Glenn before it, so it was great. Big supporter, man.
Awesome. Mike, thank you so much. Have a great weekend, brother.
You too, man. Thanks.
Take care. Bye-bye.